Welcome at the 20th episode of Podcasters, today with Sergii Danylenko, chatbot fintech expert from Ukraine. Welcome, Sergii. How are you?
Thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me. Happy to see you. I'm good.
Happy to see you, and especially in these days, hearing you're good is very important. Please introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit more about the situation you're in. Take it away.
My name is Sergei. Right now, I am in the middle of Kiev. This is the city where I was born. I'm in the center of the city, looking out of the window. There is a botanical garden there, and actually the light keeps coming off every 4 hours because of airstrikes and missiles flying from Russia and bombing here, everything. But at the same time, we have Plan B, Plan C here. We have Starlinks, we have power generators, and all sort of backup plans to support such events like we are having right now, talking to people in other countries, both for a business perspective, just to keep the projects running and to work on everything that is going on, and to tell people truth about what is going on here in Ukraine.
Are we now connected through Starlink?
No, I have SIM card installed to my smartphone that works as Plan B. So even if the light goes out, I will still have the internet connection.
Oh wow, amazing! How did you end up? In chatbot technology? Tell us a little bit about your history, and then later on we'll talk some more about Ukraine and the situation there.
Yeah, sure, Doran. Once I came across an article in Wikipedia how chatbots started. It all started in 1994. I think there was a person who presented a research white paper at one of the conferences, and he coined this term chatterbot. But that I found out later. The first time in my life when I encountered chatbot was when I working for Private Bank. Private Bank is one of the largest banks in Eastern Europe with 25 million customers, and I was marketing director of the bank. My department was responsible for orchestrating the communication with customers, and we were using all sort of digital channels like SMS messages, phone calls from the contact center, display banners. And at some point, it turned out that we're sending 30 million SMS messages per month, and the cost of sending all those messages was approximately $20 million per year. So can you imagine just $20 million per year for sending these SMS messages?
I hear a business case coming.
Yeah. Later on, it was an easy sale when we talked to other companies, just comparing SMS budget and something you could send to chatbot messengers. Back then, I'm talking about 2014, and not many messengers supported chatbots. I think Telegram was one of the first messengers in the world that had this trust and vision for how chatbots should work. And Telegram announced APIs that made possible creating chatbots for Telegram. And then I think Viber Messenger was also close to those events, which also offered APIs and the ability to build chatbots. And as you mentioned, the business opportunity was quite clear. Let's try register people in the chatbot and send them messages for free. The cost of one SMS is approximately 1 cent. But if you have a person in the chatbot, you can send it, the message you can send for free. And except for that, you are not limited with 160 symbols that you can just put in an SMS. When you send something to the chatbot, you can put their links and pictures and everything and start the conversation with the customer. There were so many business cases, like, for example, when you receive the message on the salary date, the bank could offer you open a deposit or repay the loan to the bank. When you buy air ticket, the bank was offering to buy insurance policy, and you could do that in one click. So we experimented a lot with this stuff in the bank. That's how I encountered chatbots.
But Sergei, isn't that conversational commerce avant la lettre, before everybody else? That's really, really early.
Honestly, I don't have much belief in conversational commerce. Maybe this will change with ChatGPT and other AI tools that can indeed support very smart conversation. But I was telling the story how it started in 2014 and 15, and the majority of business value was not trying to emulate the conversation. And even it was not about expecting customers to go to the chatbot and start clicking buttons. The majority of business value was vice versa, doing vice
Saving
versa,
money.
sending, initiating the conversation, preferably doing it event-based. Like something happened in the life of the customer, he did something, and as the reaction to what happened, the organization was able to send this message attaching buttons, action buttons. And then you can just guide the person across some scenario that you would like to engage with. So we had this deep belief in buttons-based, forms-based chatbots, not those that try to emulate the conversation.
Basically, a stable conversation, predictable, stable, with a focus on the outcome.
Yeah, from business perspective, maybe 80% of all conversations are more or less the same. So you have approximately 100 business cases, like the person is trying to check the balance or top up mobile phone or send money. So these are classic business cases, and they happen using the same steps. So you can just guide the person through those steps to achieve the necessary objective. And you can record everything, like all the steps, what happened, where do we lose people, where do we lose attention, and constantly improve the chatbot. So in this world, it makes no sense to emulate conversation.
But interesting because that was true then, but it's still true now, I believe.
It's changing so fast. This chat GPT thing is doing crazy things. So I think that will be a big competitor to button-based bots.
Yes, but there is also a lot of bullshit still in Chat GPT. So there is some development necessary, and it's happening. We know it's happening, and we know it's coming fast. Ideally, I think we will end up in a combination of the two, making the buttons maybe smarter on one hand, and doing smarter things with it, using the AI in ChatGPT or other applications. I've seen other tools that do amazing stuff. So there's a new world opening up. I fully agree, but that's how you ended up in chatbots. That's interesting. And if you look at all the things you did at the bank and other companies, what do you think is well, you can probably speak for Ukraine, the most interesting use case you've seen for chatbots or voice bots or process bots, even all the same?
Perhaps those cases could be related to war. No one
War.
expected,
To the war
fight.
between Russia and Ukraine, or Ukraine and
Yes.
Russia. Okay.
Yes, I think those are most unusual, sort of unexpected cases that could not be foreseen maybe 10 years ago. I don't know if they studied chatbots in military academies. Probably not.
You worked on chatbots, or you know about chatbots used in the war in Ukraine. You know, I in one of the podcasts, I talked about a chatbot used to localize Russian troops and the movements of Russian troops with photos and location, geolocation. I don't know if we talked about that. But you were involved also with other chatbots for the Ukrainian government used in the war or for the people. So could you tell us a little bit more about that, or you wanted to say something about that? Please do.
Yeah, actually, you described this use case that I like most, the chatbot.
Well, you know more about it than I do, so please tell us.
Well, there is high level of secrecy around the chatbot, so it's all about the basic functionality, and the description is available online. If you spot the missile flying, or you spot tanks or troops, or there is even instruction what things are most valuable for military, like understanding radio location, car, or some specific thing that could cost millions or dozens of millions of dollars. So if you spot this thing, they say it's important. So preferably, if you save and there is a chance you can take photo and send via chatbot, that's very valuable information. So some actions are expected to be taken immediately, like when you see the rocket is flying, this
Yeah.
is a matter of minutes to be able to react. When you see some technique or military cars, then the reaction might be postponed, but still it's valuable information. Since I think 20 million people in Ukraine are using messengers, Viber or Telegram or Facebook Messenger, it was comfortable, convenient to design these chatbots and explain how to use these chatbots. So that was done. Another chatbot that we were doing was related to war crimes registration. This is another important story because you need to have the exact location and the exact description of what you're observing, and maybe taking pictures from different angles, because this information could be later used in the court. And there are some rules that the court requires you to maintain for them to be able to use this information. That's why there was a close work with the Minister of Justice of Ukraine, who described how this should be done in the correct form, and people started using that chatbot.
Can I ask you something about this?
Yep.
Because if you think about this, if we zoom out a little bit, of course it's horrific what's happening. But if we zoom out a little bit, this is historical what's happening, because this is like the first time in any war where the use of information and giving information to the military is sort of democratized, and you're not dependent on high-tech features, but it's actually low-tech being used to gather intelligence in an extremely swift fashion. It's really weird because it's almost instant. It's like a satellite or radar or that kind of technique, but then you're using 20 million people to do it, which is sort of beautiful that the people pull together and do this at a certain risk for their own life, I presume. That's on the one hand. And if you look at the other chatbot, that's okay. That's historical too. I don't think there's ever in history that has been done where a whole people was involved in recording war crimes. Which, if we think about this, you know, it's I think it's amazing that this kind of technology can be used for good, for protection, for legal purposes. And there's another case you told me it's with the refugees. So that's a third side of the whole war story. I think it shouldn't be forgotten. So if you could tell us about that one too, I think the people would be really interested.
The chatbot is called Turbotnik, take care bot. And
Okay.
You could basically match people who had any sort of need, food or clothing or a place to stay, these sort of things, with people who could provide any assistance. So that was.
And how many people are on that bot? Is that just in Ukraine or also outside Ukraine?
That one that I mentioned was working in Ukraine mainly, but then so many other chatbots appeared that worked internationally. We had nothing to do with those chatbots, but that's another beauty of this chatbot landscape. So many people can have different ideas, come up with different user experience, and the chatbot that survives means that that is the best chatbot. It's all decentralized. You don't have the head of chatbots anywhere. So people come up with these ideas. I even once had a call from a guy from Canada, and he said, hey, Sergei, we are having a hackathon here. He was working for the Royal Bank of Royal Bank of Canada, and there were also people from Twilio, I think, this international communication platform. So he said,
Yeah.
we're having this 24-hour hackathon and we're building a chatbot to help refugees who come to Canada. So even people from other countries were a part of this space. Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing that such a disaster brings people together, but also we show good use of the technology at hand. And I think that that's also important. We don't see it just being used for commercial purposes, but there's human interest purposes also where it's properly used, and I think that's very valuable.
Yeah.
And I hope more people will follow. There's tons of places where people need help, and they all have a mobile phone, so there is access to internet and chatbots, hopefully, so they can get ahead. I think it's important the world should know this. If you look at, you look at the news every day, and probably very local. What do you see happening where the whole chatbot world and the development is going to? You mentioned ChatGPT, and all the open AI and other AI developments. Where do you think this is all going?
First of all, it's a huge experimentation field. So chatbots allowed for low-cost experimentation. They lowered the bar of what is needed to be able to reach out to millions of people. Before the chatbots, you could try to build websites or maybe build mobile applications, but we all know that that's quite hard. You need to create iPhone or Android application, send it to Apple or Google, store it, and wait until it's tested and everything, and you need to have iOS and Android developer. It's super costly. With chatbots, you can just read the API documentation, some manuals, and focus on what is important, your idea. So you have some assumptions, and you just test this assumption quickly. I read an article about a guy in Australia who ran a business around chatbots. That was one function chatbot. Just do something small, clear, something that has value. And he was launching these chatbots, like dozens of them. Most of them died or were of little use, but a couple of those chatbots became real stars, fulfilling the needs that they were fulfilling. Chatbots, they allow this creativity and experimentation mood to really be appreciated by the market. Another thing is that still, chatbot is just the channel. So people were using newspapers to read newspapers and get information from, or TV channels or radio, or then we're using websites and mobile applications. Now there are lots of people who are using chatbots. So chatbot is a channel, and you need to really think what you're going to say to the audience, or what sort of behavior you're expecting from the audience. You can't be ahead of the chatbot. You need to be ahead of product. You need to have some idea, and chatbot is just the tool.
I call it delivering the value to the customer. Otherwise, they won't come at all.
Yes. Value, and it's classic. You go, you face the problem, and then you might decide to use the chatbot to solve this problem. But problem solving comes first, not the chatbot.
No, it's a means to an end, not an end to a mean.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
No, I agree. And but where are we going with this? I mean, we see it happening. We see the technology, and we know the Gartner report saying that customer service will be mainly replaced by chatbots and AI technology. We understand that. We see that happen. We in every podcast we test a chatbot. We see and I'm trying to be nice, but we see a lot of chatbots on websites are actually FAQ bots, and most of them, I won't say they fail, but they don't succeed, and I don't know, we run into problems, they don't know the answer, they don't understand the intent, et cetera, et cetera. So there is an issue there. And the technology allows us to make big leaps right now to move beyond that. That's my belief, at least. But how do you see this? Is everything going conversational? Is every process later on in due time a conversation in your idea?
No, I think it's going into proactive space, meaning that chatbots will actually act in your best interest as they understand it. I mean that there are so many things that we want right now, like a better place, maybe a good deal for a hotel or travel somewhere, or buying some goods, or making new friends, making new connections, finding a new job. There are so many things. But if we start solving those issues right now, we will be searching the web or interacting with some chatbots, trying to get use of those chatbots. I believe this can be done vice versa. You put a task to the chatbot and say, go there, look for it. When you find something of interest for me, just come back and notify me. So we'll have a lot of, so to say, virtual assistants. I know that a lot of chatbots are now being renamed, rebranded to virtual assistants. A virtual assistant means that it's sort of silent. It doesn't expect that you will try to talk to him or click any buttons. Virtual assistant is doing vice versa. It runs all over the world globally, picks up what might be interested for you and brings up to your attention.
Yeah, it's a different game.
Yeah, totally.
But it's interesting. So are we looking at a situation where basically in due time, it's like a bit like WeChat in China, where everything is being done in a conversational space? That could be in WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Viber or one of the other ones, doesn't matter. Is that what you see happening? So basically, in due time, you say, I don't know, give me the best deal on, I don't know, a certain movie or a game or whatever, and it keeps, instead of you searching on the web, basically the bot or the technology behind it starts searching for you and finds the best deal, and here it is. Do you want to buy it? Yes, and you pay, and that's it. Something like that.
Yes, I think the bots will remove as much boring stuff from your life as possible. So if the bot...
But isn't hold on. Sorry, that is an interesting thought. Isn't then the consequence that, and that's also a bit what we saw in BlenderBot from Meta, and which is not actually a bot, but and what you now see in the OpenAI application, that basically the era where everything or a lot of money is being made with advertisements, that is over. Because if you are looking for the best deal, you don't see the ads anymore. You just see the result of the search. So there's a whole new, different ballgame replacing the ad scene. Is that what's happening?
No.
Okay.
Look, I see it in the following way. For centuries, people were relying on their hands to work. They needed to have the shovels and everything, and your strength was actually important. The war of 14th or 15th century was waged with horses and all these swords and all this stuff, and that's what Russia is still saying, that whoever has more power, meaning nuclear weapon these days, this person is more important. But this is nonsense. It makes no sense in the 21st century. The majority of time people spend now, they can, if they choose to, they can spend on some more creative stuff, more meaningful stuff, like traveling or art or paintings or reading or creating things. You don't no longer need to have these muscles and everything to fight anyone. This world appreciates smart people with education, people who read books, who watch movies, and who are intellectually savvy. The the world outlook, the way people see the world, and the way how they react to advertising. Here I come to the advertising, is shaped by the experience from movies, books, travels, and everything they consume.
Social media.
Yeah, but social media can be different. There is a lot of information noise and everything. But if you know how to differentiate and how to use social media for good, it's still good. So I mean that if you are an intellectual person and you have better chances to be intellectual person in the 21st century than in the 5th century. So if you made this choice, or parents did this choice for you, you have these tools. You can take Coursera courses, you can get education from best Harvard professors. Everything is available. This information shapes the way you see the world. And then it also shapes your choices, including the way you react to advertising. And here we come to the bots. It means that you need to put task to the bot to do the job for you. You can hire the bot. But still, this sense, the answer to the question, why is this important, is shaped by you, and you need to be able to explain to the chatbot what you want. Chatbot cannot make any guesses here. It's still you who...
But if we put a chatbot to work as a virtual assistant, let's say I want to buy a new phone. And I want a certain type. I have no time to scroll the web and all these comparison sites, etc., etc. I'm fed up with all that information. I want this phone. Where can I get it the cheapest? Okay. So basically, you put your virtual assistant to work. Of course, the moment you start Googling, you get all these ads for these products from companies that offer that product, and they pay Google for that. What happens if the bot sort of skips those ads because it doesn't look at it? It starts looking at companies that offer the product and looks at the price, right? Let's say that's the case. Then the model of Google is dead because nobody sees the ads anymore. They just put their virtual assistant to work to get what they want.
Yeah, but Apple needed first to get my attention to make me want iPhone or MacBook. So this part of advertising is still super relevant. For me to be able to put the bot in charge of buying an iPhone, first I need to know about iPhone. I
understand, but let's say you asked your bot, your virtual assistant, figure out for me what is the best phone in the price range XYZ, up to 500 euros, just as an example. And it figures it out for you, okay? It searches the web and it finds the information for you and it tells you, okay, it needs to be an iPhone, I don't know, 14, whatever.
No, that's another story. There are two main ways how people take decisions. One is like commodity-like approach, like get me whatever is the best. It's a super short task. I don't care much about my internet service provider or mobile data provider. So this is commodity. It's more or less the same.
Branding is not important. We just want the product. Okay.
Yeah. And another way is where I really want it because it's my personality. It is part of the way I see the world. It's part of the things that I believe are important. And here, education and the way you think about the world is very important. And partially, this is shaped by companies who engage in conversations with us. So this part is still super relevant, I believe.
Well, it's interesting, but I'm trying to see where Google is at that point. Do we think, or can we conclude that a part of the business model of companies like Google, who live from ads, is going to be cut off because of future, not right now, but in the future, a lot of stuff will be handled by a bot and you'll never see these ads online? Is a part of it happening, or you say, no, forget it, it's going to stay?
It's happening. I don't think it will be totally cut. I think that Google will find its way to still be a part of this game. What is good here? I'm sure you know this Nobel Prize that was won, I think 2001, when there was Nobel Prize in Economy awarded for to the scientists who studied this discrepancy between people who have information, sellers, and people who want to buy information. And there was a huge gap between these two objects. And he was showing the consequence of how this absence of information influences the economy. Now it will be even more hard to hide information about the fair price of the phone or the car, or because these AI will be able to find indeed the super balanced option tailored just for you. So I think it has more good than bad consequences.
Yeah, and what I just realized, that good consequence probably also has a consequence for SEO, because you have to reconfigure your website
Yes.
in order to cater to the AI searching the web and not a person, and that's totally different because AI computerized search is different from a human search fully.
Yeah, and you know what? I think luckily the value of human interaction will increase. Like right now,
I agree.
we are talking here. Hopefully, you're not a robot, and
I'm not a deep fake.
can guarantee.
100%.
Yeah. So later in life, if we interact, there is a higher chance that we can work on a project together or discuss something, all these sort of things, than from just interactions with the chatbots.
I agree. My opinion is that the way we use and should use chatbots more and more, and the technology, is to create more space for personal interactions that are relevant about complicated stuff that maybe later on a computer can do, but right now people need to do it to figure out how it needs to be done. And that sort of interaction creates innovation and beautiful stuff. And I think let the bots do the repetitive stuff, the administrative stuff that basically they do better than a human, and they don't get bored, they don't get tired, they never forget a question, etc., etc. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's where the real value is. And as you said before, I call that process bots. They either guide you through a process that is a frequently not asked process or done process, where the computer does a better job than the human, to be honest.
Yeah. Another thing, you know, what is important is I think chatbots can greatly contribute to colonizing Mars.
Okay,
Because
now we're getting somewhere. This is interesting. Okay, why? You talk to Elon Musk or something?
it's all about experimentation and creativity. This is a huge challenge, the space exploration, and you need so many bright minds to work on so many complicated problems that you need to free time for them. You need to send those chatbots, do all the boring stuff like you mentioned, for people to be able to focus on what is really important.
But that's the same in customer service. You know, the people are so busy doing repetitive stuff or answering questions that they've answered a million times that let it do by a bot. It's faster, 24/7. And the real complicated stuff of where there's emotion involved, etc. Let people handle that and have time for the people who deserve it,
Yeah.
who are paying for the services.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I mentioned previously is experimenting. To be able to explore such complicated stuff as space, you need
Yeah.
to be able to experiment really, really fast. And there are
So
so many things that you cannot do in space exploration because, let's say, flying to Mars takes 7 months. So a lot of results can be achieved just in 7 months. You can't do a lot of things real time. But with chatbots, you can invent all sort of simulations, A, B, C, D, testing, all these sort of things.
that's interesting. For people who are listening and viewing, we're not saying that chatbots let us fly to Mars. They free up the time of the scientists that have to figure out how to get us to Mars, right?
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So before anybody misunderstands that, we're saying some weird idea that the next missile is a chatbot. It's not. If you could build or invent a chatbot right now, or a voice bot, or anything to do with technology, to solve a certain problem, what problem would you solve? Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, but what would you? What is so frustrating to say? "Oh, I'd love to put this technology to work on this problem."
That's an easy question because actually I'm working right now on on one. Together with my friends, we founded a space tech startup. That's one of the reasons I started talking about space. Seems like suddenly, because I'm a big fan of space exploration, and together with friends, we published this book, The Case for Space, by Robert Zubrin, translated into Ukrainian language. And the idea we're now exploring is detecting changes that happened on Earth using data from satellite images. This is a hot space because a lot of data appears, and we launch more satellites. Satellites do more pictures. Those pictures are not necessarily like visual. They can be infrared or electromagnetic or other specters. So we get more data about what's going on Earth, but it's not easy to make sense out of the data and find cases when this data is applicable and relevant. And one of such cases that we're working on is change detection. Imagine that you can pick up a spot on this planet, like a warehouse or a plant or a building or solar panel, anything. Just point somewhere and subscribe. Subscribe to monitoring. Like, for some reason, it's important for you to monitor if tornado or earthquake or fire influences this particular building or whatever you're monitoring. And in this case, the chatbot could alert you that, hey, change detected. There's something going on
in the data.
After digesting the data, after all those models, machine learning models and everything made the job and detected change, you can get notified that you need to pay attention.
So let's say hypothetically, someone has a big roof with solar panels, and he doesn't want to climb on the roof every time to see if they're still in place and not affected by winds or hailstorms or whatever. They're in place, pointing in the right direction and not broken. And basically, you're saying you can use satellite imagery and the analysis of those images, one new compared to old.
Correct.
If there's any changes in the picture, and that difference is being communicated to the customer via a chatbot, and it will say your solar panel has moved or is broken or whatever. At least you need to pay attention, go up to your roof and check.
Yeah, yes, Darren. You could be a great marketing director.
Thank you for this offer. We'll talk about it. No, but seriously, this is interesting. And do you also expect to be able to focus and monitor on of course, there's lots of discussions about it. We're not a political thing, but on climate change, where you say infrared, that means you have temperature, measurement of temperature, right?
Yes. This goes to the definition of change. So you define change and you will have your answer.
But is it something you define or the customer defines?
Both.
And how you're gonna? I'm sorry, I'm really interested. And is it something? Because where are you going to get the data or the images from the satellites? Can you just get it? It's public information, or how does that work? Or you need to subscribe to a satellite?
Doran, it's so interesting for me. This question is often being asked, and I feel as if I were describing internet in 1992 to people, because it's everywhere.
I know Google, for instance, with Google, you can see they use satellites and you can see the roof of your building, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that. But there's, if you want to be so specific and so zoomed in, like a detail on a solar panel, that's a whole different level in terms of quality of the image. So those are specific it's not a general satellite. Those have to be specific satellites. You will know that satellite time is expensive. So there must be an interesting way to acquire those images.
So there are free images. Okay. A lot of government entities from different countries, from European Union and from other regions, they are interested in space exploration. That is why they publish tons of data, tons of images for free, and invite people to experiment. Okay. So a lot of images can be just accessed for free. Of course, those are not super good quality images, but for many cases, like to understand that this building was destroyed, it's more than enough. So a lot of cases can be built based on this information. The next thing that is important is, yes, you are right, some images are specific or expensive, etc. So it depends on the business case. If the customer is willing to pay extra dozens or hundreds of dollars to get this information. Here we come to the point when it's important to understand what is the price of monitoring. If you monitor something that is super expensive, then you are willing to pay this amount of money, and that won't be your only way of monitoring. You will put cameras there, there will be other ways to monitor the object, so it will be one of the options of monitoring.
It's like another channel.
Yes, and the global trend plays in our favor, because even more data becomes available, the price for those images is decreasing, the quality of available algorithms for an analysis is improving, so a lot of things are going in this space.
That's a very, and do you have like real-time imagery, or is it a photo and then a day later another photo? It's once every 24 hours?
A day later photo is a good situation. More often you have week to week or even month to month change detection. But again, for many business cases, this is enough. For example, if you want to understand if there is business activity in the area, if the building is indeed being built after you issued the loan for that building, are the cars coming and parking there, and what's the trend? So it's possible. You don't need day to day for all the cases.
I understand that. Also for climate change, you don't need day to day. There's if it's about the rising or a temperature that's lowering, then a trend is enough. I understand that. But for solar panels on a roof, you do need closer monitoring. And if you, I was thinking of another one. Like if you look at insurance companies, damage insurance companies, where there's a storm or a flooding or whatever, I come from the financial services industry, so do you. So we understand that real and actual information, and have it quickly to know exactly where to go and where to help, to offer help. If you know in which zip code area the damage is, you can proactively send all your customers a message, are you okay? Do you have any damage to your house? Do you need any assistance? Blah, blah, blah. You can be proactive instead of reactive. Because now in Holland, if there's a big storm or flooding, basically all the insurance companies are reactive, most of them, and they go crazy with the amount of inbound traffic. Whereas if I would be a customer, I would be delighted, even if I have no damage, that they would approach me and say, "Are you okay? Is your house okay? Is your car okay?
The chatbot
Can we
will
help you in
approach
any way?" Yeah, the chatbot. No, not personally. It's impossible in terms of the volume. I'd be delighted for the feeling of service. And even though it's a chatbot, it would make it extremely personal,
Yes.
even with the chatbot, because I'm in that area.
Yeah. I think
So,
that in future we won't be able to imagine a business which is not related to this data coming from space and satellites. The same way we can't imagine any business today not related to internet. Everybody is using all those mobile apps and chatbots and everything related to digital. You can't imagine a business almost.
yeah, and what I see is that most businesses do not have a serious backup scenario if there's no internet. End of story, or even end of service for a while. But you said space exploration, which is really interesting, because if you say space exploration to me, I would assume flying to Mars, to the moon, going out there. But basically, you're talking about satellites in space, creating data and imagery of the Earth, and using that in terms of space exploration, right?
It's all connected. I should present you a gift, this book, The Case for
Okay.
Space by Robert, where he explains exactly what is the value of space exploration in broad terms. And one of the arguments is that these are most scientifically interesting challenges. And both going to Mars and analyzing data from satellites, it's all interconnected. And to be able to do this, you need to get people interested, at least to enter the university, study computer science, data science, machine learning, all this stuff. When the United States was flying to the moon, back then, so many students chose technical education as number one priority. They were inspired by this stuff. Not all of those people went to work to the space industry, but they ended in Google, Apple, Tesla, and other companies.
So basically, the sky wasn't the limit anymore.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
That's really interesting. It's basically you're using space exploration as a paradigm for innovation.
Yes, definitely, because it's where the challenge is.
I agree, and you see the same thing happening in defense industry. They're under high pressure. I mean, I found it a great example. The European Union or countries delivered a certain technology. I thought it was heavy cannons or something to Ukraine, and they said, but you need so many months to learn how to operate it, and you need certain software, etc. And they gave you the technology. And the next thing you know, you knew how to operate it within 7 days, as I understood correctly. You changed the software and you made it actually more accurate than it was. So the under pressure, there's a lot more possible than when there's no pressure. So I think that, I'm not saying that we need wars or something, but I do think that the need for change, people need to feel the pain, sort of, in order to quickly create a change. Corona actually, although of course it's horrible and a lot of people got sick and died, etc., but it also brought us a lot of good stuff in terms of the adoption of technology, quick adoption of technology in certain places where before people say, oh, you can't learn online. All of a sudden you can learn online. You can't do university online, well, apparently you can. You can do exams online, well, apparently you can. Healthcare. In Holland, it was crazy. The doctors wouldn't get money from the insurance if they saw a patient online. And it was blocked. It was blocked. Within 2 days, they unblocked it, and all of a sudden, it works fine. And it turns out it's actually quite efficient. So what I'm trying to say, innovation under pressure actually works and can bring good stuff, even though the reason why might not be such a big party. But eventually the result might be actually interesting and good for society. And that's how I also look at Corona. Yes, it brought a lot of stuff, nasty stuff, but we also learned a lot. And I think for chatbot, it was great.
Yeah. Do you know what is another good driver for innovation?
Let's go. We're on a roll here.
Curiosity.
I don't know anything about that. That's the whole thing why we started this podcast. Purely out of curiosity. We missed knowledge. There was, no objective knowledge out there, not being sponsored by some company. We just wanted people to honestly tell the story. No, well, here you are, number 20. Telling the story, and we're using space exploration as a paradigm, as a reason for chatbots. How amazing is that?
I should
and
recommend
when-
you.
Sorry?
I will recommend you one more book, and to our listeners, it's The Right Kind of Crazy.
You can put it when we post it. You just put it underneath. You post the names and the links to the books. That's fine. Of course, I'll read them. But what I wanted to ask: when can we see the first results of those of a chatbot, or the possibility to use a chatbot to get information about building an area? Is it already live?
It's ready. Yeah, I didn't want to advertise this, but if people see it online, just ping me or comment or just reach out.
I'm curious. Can you show something? I know it's we didn't prepare this, but I know you're going to show another chatbot in a few minutes. We'll do that. But I'm curious also to see something. Not selling your services. We're not a commercial platform, but you caught my attention. And my curiosity. And I'm just curious how you translate that curiosity for space exploration to a chatbot, to a service for consumers, because that's actually what it is, or companies, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can show you something.
We're improvising now, right?
Let me open this file.
And as far as the war, how bad are you affected by the war? Your business and you personally?
I had a strike at the co-living. There is a project I'm managing, the co-living space, 5 semi-detached buildings, and I think grenade landed near the building and it was severely damaged, so we needed to repair the roof. And close to my building, we had 3 missile strikes in like 500 meters from my building. But you don't realize and you don't get scared in the moment. I saw the rocket flying over me, but when such things happen, you just, at least me, I react fast. So I need to hide somewhere and go inside and take the wife and daughter somewhere to safe place. So it's not that dramatic in the moment. You get scared afterwards.
And your daughter, how is she coping?
Sorry, say it again.
How's your daughter coping with the situation?
She's 8 years old, so she listening attentively to everything we're saying, and I think she's more curious to learn than to get afraid in this age.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
kids
right.
look at their
Sure.
parents, right, and copy their behavior. So if you're not afraid, she learns not to be afraid.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think I'm ready to show something.
Cool. So what are we going to look at?
I'll explain in a moment.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. So currently this looks and works like this. You reach out to our team and you describe what exactly you would like to monitor. and we
Okay.
say what are the options, what is the cost, what is the expected update time, all these sort of things. Right now on the screen, you can see solar panels. This is collateral asset. So the bank takes these assets when issues a loan, and definitely for the bank, it's important to understand that everything is okay with these assets. So here on these pictures, we see that, yeah, all is fine with these solar panels. These pictures were taken within a couple of weeks from one another. And with this level of detailization, we know that these objects were not destroyed. I will show in a moment examples of objects when they were destroyed, and the difference will be possible. So in this case, chatbot will just send you in the evening, like report saying all is fine with what you are monitoring.
Okay.
This is another example of grain elevator. So here, if you pay attention at this part of the picture, you can see metal roof and sunlight, reflected sunlight, and this is the same object within a couple of weeks, and we see that it didn't change. So we assume that everything is fine with this object as well. And now this is an example of heavily damaged area. This is Azovstal in Mariupol, the plant, the factory. On
The
the
steel
left,
factory.
metal factory.
Metal, yeah, steel factory.
Steel factory, yes, yes. On the left, it's an old picture when everything was okay in Mariupol. On the right,
Yeah.
you can see so many scattered, you see this stuff. This is the scattered steel that got damaged. So
Okay.
here you would be notified that something is wrong. And these are publicly available news stories. I'm just using them as an example. Here you can see the building standing, and here you can see the same building after Ukrainian armed forces destroyed Russian troops located inside the building. So again, you can see that the change can be easily detected between two pictures. And here you can see AWS Amazon warehouse in Illinois. So again, you can see a clear difference between two pictures. Yeah, and the rest is
Hold on. You use AI to analyze the difference.
yes, yes. We're experimenting now with like level of accuracy to detect this change and alert the client. And here you can see the same warehouse in another spectrum. The same.
It's you stopped sharing.
Oh, yeah. Let me go back here. The same Amazon warehouse. You see this green,
Yeah.
and on the right it's damaged.
You see the rubble.
Yes, yes. So obviously this kind of change can be easily detected.
And then so the pictures are detected before and after, or in a time period, over a time period, and then the data is created, and based on the data, you outbound send a chatbot or bot message saying it's okay or not okay or whatever needs to be
Correct. Yes.
done. And could a customer then go into more detail or say, could you send me a detailed picture of, let's say from the Amazon warehouse, that's a detailed picture. Could you go to that level and say, okay, yes, of course, here it is?
Yes, absolutely. Some pictures are available and they have a price tag. We can just say, yeah, that level of detailization, it could be 30 centimeters per pixel. 30 centimeters, you can see, I don't know, you can see a book.
You can read the title.
Yeah, and we can say that is the cost, or it's also possible to request a picture. The price will be quite often even higher than buying the quality picture that is ready, but it's also possible. You can just request the photo shoot and have it delivered sometime soon. It also depends on some factors.
But basically, you can connect to any satellite that delivers pictures, or a repository or a database with those pictures and images based on a geolocation, right?
I wouldn't say we can connect. We are not hackers. We are not people who are launching satellites. There are companies who do that, so we can negotiate with those companies.
No, but they have a database of pictures. So
Yes.
basically, you connect to their database to get those
Correct.
pictures.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And as an individual, that won't be possible. You need to be. So you're just correct me if I'm saying this wrong. You're also collecting the volume of demand in order to negotiate contracts with these companies.
Correct.
In order to get a decent price or a decent value to your customers. It makes a margin, of course. I understand.
Correct, Doran. Yes, yes.
No, I understand the business model. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, I told you it could be a great.
No, but I think you're delivering great value. But the other thing is, from what I see is that in areas where there are storms or floodings or whatever, you could be of high value to insurance companies to quickly, first of all, get the information on the area they need or the objects they have insured in order to connect to the people. That's basically the information, and then use it to go outbound to these people and connect and help them or offer help.
Also, Doran, I remembered another great use case that we are now discussing with a couple of companies talking about climate change. There are a lot of companies who are worried about sustainability and carbon and all these sort of things. That's why they put forests, they plant trees.
Yeah.
And there are startups who help them plant trees. And these startups are actually saying to compensate the carbon dioxide, we need to plant, let's say, 1,000 trees. So you can just pay for the whole process to take place, and they will go and plant the trees and take pictures. But then what is important is to actually understand that those trees grow. So you need to revisit every year or maybe every couple of years to understand that, okay, now we have a forest. So this is another case when you do not need expensive day-to-day pictures. It's enough to monitor this year over year. And I think this can even brought to B2C space, just welcoming you personally, Doran, just paying a couple of dozen of dollars for some trees to be planted and notified via chatbot that your trees are okay.
I never thought about that, but that could be an interesting case. And I can imagine if you start thinking about this, all these people who have a house abroad.
Yes.
They might have cameras and internet, etc., but they could just monitor it from above.
Yes, correct.
And if your boat, let's say you have a boat somewhere in the harbor.
Yes.
And you don't, same thing.
Yes.
So there's, and could you do tracking?
No.
No, so you can't monitor, let's say a boat goes sailing, you want to track your family on the boat. You can't track them.
At this level of technology and possibilities to make it product market fit and making sense to pay that amount of money, it makes no sense.
It's on the government level. Those are spy satellites. Okay, well, if you can use them, why not?
You can do another thing. You can monitor if the boat comes in every time back and then.
Sorry, could you repeat that? Because I didn't hear it. You can monitor if the boat?
If the boat keeps coming to the harbor every couple of weeks. Because if you issued a loan for a boat, there is the assumption that it needs to be at some point in the harbor at least for some time during the year and not like sail away.
So as the collateral for the bank?
Yes.
And it's interesting. Could be interesting for banks or financing companies to protect their investments or their loans
Yes.
That way. Yeah. You have a chatbot ready to test because the space exploration part, that was a different story. There was like a little trip. You have a chatbot ready. Which one is it?
This is the chatbot of Ukrainian Railways.
Which is in these times, of course, very interesting and complicated, I presume.
Yes, and those people are heroes. They are indeed heroes because when the war started, they arranged all these evacuation trains. They provided food and hot beverages and everything on the railway stations. So they were of strategic importance to the victory of those battles that armed forces were fighting. And
still today, right?
yes, definitely, yes.
The chatbot is in Ukrainian, I understood.
Yes.
So if you could translate what we are looking at, and I can't help you because I don't speak Ukrainian. So
yeah,
you're on
sure.
your own here. But guide us through it, please.
Yeah. You can see this chatbot. This is the logo, the Telegram chatbot. I'm using the desktop version of Telegram.
Okay.
What do we have here? Ticket purchase that you could expect from the chatbot.
Okay.
Tickets that I previously bought. This one is super cool. I will click buttons in a moment, but I will guide you through the main menu.
Okay.
This is delay. So you can get notified when the train arrives. I was meeting my family recently at the train station and early in the morning, like 5:30 a.m., and I needed to be sure that the train is not late. So this item allows you to track which trains will be late. This is another type of train. This is time schedule. This is online, what people see on the tableau at the railway station. So just the copy of what I would see if I go to the railway station right now. Returning the ticket, and this is my cards, like payment options.
Okay.
If I want to buy something, I don't need to enter my card details every time. So I can do it just once. So let's click something, for example, online schedule. Here they ask me, okay, is this the capital Kiev or Lviv or Dnipro or other city that I would like to take a look at? If I click, for example, Odessa, it says, okay, these are these trains that are relevant to Odessa right now. If I click,
Am I looking at the number before is the train number?
yes, exactly. This is the train number, and it will embark like in half an hour from the first railway. It's 16:51. This is the date, and this is number of the track. This one is also cool because very often you have like a couple of minutes to get into the train. You go to the railway station and you can't understand what is the right platform. So this chatbot helps you super quickly understand where to run. I know so many real stories when people were lucky to catch the train thanks to this chatbot. And
I
here,
can imagine.
yeah,
Super cool.
yeah, and this button allows you to subscribe for a notification when the train actually leaves. This is important when you send your friends or family or business partners and you need to understand that everything is fine and the train just left the train station. This goes to the main menu, and here we can check the delays, for example. So
Okay.
what? Oh, no trains are delayed. You see, they have the super cool stickers. So everything goes smoothly according to the schedule. If I scroll up, you will see maybe other trains that I was checking previously. Yeah, so this is an example. Oops, this particular train will be late 1 hour 15 minutes. This is how it looks like.
It's
I
It's
don't
an
think.
easy way to give the right information really, really fast. They're delivering. This is what we talked about. This is delivering value.
Yes, definitely yes.
Why are you laughing? It is, right?
Yeah. I won't click other buttons. It's self-explanatory. Buying tickets, returning tickets, all those things. And by the way, Ukrainian Railways built the chatbot before they created the mobile app.
Can I say something honestly? I think if you have a good chatbot, you don't need a mobile app.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I see a trend where people have so many apps on their phones they don't want to access it anymore. They don't install it anymore. They're just going crazy with the amount of apps. If you want to work with a company, you need to install an app. Why? Why can't you use what I already have?
Yeah, yeah,
And you see the same trend.
uh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, yes. I also remembered about one more chatbot that I would like to have in my life.
Go on.
The bot that works as health dashboard. So for some reason, in our world, when you go to do the regular checkup to the doctor, or you just visit the doctor, and the doctor tells you something or prescribes you something, and then you walk away, everybody assumes that you will do what was asked or recommended. But that's super not true. And nobody does these follow-ups, asking these questions. Okay, did you take the medicine? Did you make those exercises? And
Sergey, this is so funny you're saying this because many years ago I did a project in a hospital, and we had a econometrist who was who needed to graduate, do some research, and I call it a triage bot. Basically, at that point, we already thought you need a triage bot that, after your consultation, checks up on the patients automatically and detects data or anomalies, and decides, or has an algorithm, whether you should go see the doctor or the doctor should call you, and regularly update. So basically, you get preventive medicine and not corrective medicine.
yes,
And I fully agree. It's crazy that it's not happening.
yeah, we
But
have a
I think a lot
chatbot.
of people.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, go on.
We have this dashboard for cars. You know everything about your car, but still, I don't have the dashboard where you can say, okay, visiting dentist, checking my D3 vitamin, having my COVID vaccine and flu vaccine. And did you know that there are other types of vaccines that you need to do like every 5 or 10 years? So it's not even annually. Of course, you forget about those things.
I agree. And same thing. Logically, why don't we do regularly, once every 5 years, a full blood work? You will find a lot of diseases early, and make sure that people don't get very sick. So eventually the cost of medicine or of healthcare goes down,
Yeah,
and you can put that in that dashboard.
yeah,
So that makes sense. And you have a lot of devices that monitor stuff like heart rate or level of oxygen in your blood, etc., or temperature. You could record that too and add that to the dashboard as data.
yeah. But you need to be a really crazy geek to do this, because there are bracelets and there is the app on the phone, and some things you just enter manually. So theoretically, you could create such a dashboard for yourself, but I haven't seen this problem solved on a high level.
And now on a philosophical level, what if that would be combined with AI to analyze that data and put that compare it with research data on certain diseases or on every disease? Because with AI, technically, it's possible with the calculation capacity. What would happen then? Can you imagine?
Yeah, something good should happen, both in research and preventing and everything.
So, are we going? In Holland, we call it Doctor Google. People who Google their symptoms and then go to the doctor and they say, "I have this and that," because Google says I have that. Is that where we're heading? If we would have such a dashboard that it suggests, oh, you need to go to the doctor because you might have one of these 5 diseases because the anomalies in your data suggest that. You think that's where we're going?
Um, Eventually, I would say yes, because nowadays you wouldn't trust 100% Googling and reading articles. Still, you go to the doctor, and the doctors are having hard time explaining you if you are right or wrong. Very often, it has some probability. So there is no 100% clear answer, and the doctor is dealing with this probability. But eventually, in the end, I think that the same way you don't trust people nowadays to do a lot of job. For example, you wouldn't rely on surgery if computers are not involved. You need X-ray and so many other things. And if the doctor says that he won't be relying on technology at all, you won't agree to deal with such a doctor. The same with chess. You can't win chess nowadays against a computer. So I believe that eventually computers will be better at diagnostics.
Yeah, they can process more data faster
Yes.
and they don't skip a step.
Yeah, that's a whole philosophical discussion why it happens. But that's separate podcast, I think.
Well, we'll keep it in our back pocket. Sergey, is there, if you would suggest something or give a tip or advice to people who are in our field of expertise, working with chatbot and chatbot technology, if they're starting a new project, what would you give them as a tip or advice, how to start or how not to start?
Go look for the problems.
Explain yourself.
Try to find a problem inside an industry that you like. You can talk to people, you can go to work for enterprise. Just make sure that there is the pain, there is the real issue that people are willing to pay to be solved.
So you need to deliver value.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yes. Or come up with a way to experiment really, really fast. That's just another way. Just create dozens and hundreds of chatbots to check some feature, check some assumption, and grow whatever is growing.
And so basically growth hack your way to success.
Yeah, but it always starts with why.
That makes sense. That's Simon Sinek, right?
Yeah, a good book. Yes, by the way, yes.
First,
Yes, it
first
starts
start
with
with
why.
why.
Yeah. So there are two answers to this question. Either it's painful and somebody is willing to pay to solve this, or it's curious. The answer to why can be I'm curious. What if? Imagine the chatbot that does something. I don't know if it's a pain or not, it's my assumption. But I'm driven by curiosity.
Yeah, and that's also how you get to space exploration combined with chatbots, right?
Yes.
I think it's really cool. Are you going to keep us updated on the developments on space exploration in combination with chatbots?
I'll be happy to.
And maybe somewhere in the near future, as soon as we can operate one of those bots, we're actually going to show what happens, and maybe live demonstration or something.
Yeah,
Because I think it's really cool, and it deserves to be seen. And is there any message from Ukraine you want to give to our community? I'm not trying to be politically correct, but I think you guys are working on very difficult circumstances, and you're here, you're working, you're in this podcast, and thank you for that, by the way. Really appreciate it. But is there anything you want to say about that?
I just want to say thank you and express the gratitude, because we feel and we see that level of support, unmatched support from the community of European Union and from the Netherlands. I have a lot of friends in the Netherlands, both who came to work there from Ukraine for Booking.com or other companies based in the Netherlands, and people who are native Dutch people. I visited Amsterdam many times. I visited this picnic conference that happened in Amsterdam year to year, and I remember this beautiful country. And thanks for everything that European community is doing to help Ukraine.
I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that.
Oh, cool. No, thank you. If someone is looking for you, Sergei, where can they find you? I mean, in Ukraine is a bit, too general. So how does someone find you online?
I'm active on LinkedIn and Facebook, so welcome to connect.
Okay, we'll put your profile in the bio so they can find you. If someone is looking for us, for podcasters, they can find us on YouTube, and where they can see what we're doing, and otherwise they can listen to us on Spotify, also under the name of Podcasters. Sergei, I really want to thank you, and let's stay in touch, see how things go, and keep me updated.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren, for inviting me. It was a great pleasure talking to you.